Coming up on the CHGO Cubs podcast, are the Cubs the best team in town now? Uh-oh. And Shota Imanaga was a great signing for the Cubs. Now, could they be on to Roki, too? And did you see what Matt Shaw, their top prospect, did? It's all coming up next. The CHGO Cubs podcast starts right now. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs podcast. Happy Veterans Day to everybody out there that has served our country. We appreciate you. We are thankful for you. It is November 11th, a Bears not victory Monday. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Nate popping in.
Luke's back from Mexico.
We're back. Mexico was great. Hola, everybody. And Law on the Draw.
Hello.
Riding the ones and twos in his Green Bay Packer hoodie for Packer Week. Are you wearing Packer green?
Not
Packer Hunter green. It looks like more of a hunter green.
I don't know. It's a strange week.
Green.
It's a strange week to start with that
so.
hoodie. That's all I'm going to say.
I think when I was in school and we had crayons, like it was called forest green. So.
Forest green, pine green. I will listen. It's a nice color, and I will say this: it's a very popular color. If you see a lot of the advertisements throughout this season, very popular. Sea green. And they got some other barrel thing on. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about.
Your spot.
Oh, Door County.
Nice.
Very nice. It is my
Bread.
spot.
The fish boil, yeah.
That's good fish boil for everybody, yeah. We're going to talk about the Cubs' top prospect who is tearing it up for Team USA. We are going to talk about the possibility of dipping back into that Japanese star pool. Roki Sasaki has posted officially. Could the Cubs strike gold 2 years in a row in that market? You know, they didn't get the two biggest names to come out of there. What could they have the next two biggest? And could they add one before they go to open the season in Japan? And who knows, we could be there too. But first, I have a question for you. As we all sat through the Bears game yesterday, are the Cubs back to being the best team in town? As miserable as it is at 83 wins 2 years in a row, are the Cubs back to being the best team in town and the most promising team in town?
I mean, yeah.
It's a low bar, but
I mean, it's the lowest frickin' bar.
It's a pretty low bar, and it's tough
it's like if you're grading on the curve.
We are.
Like they got a C, but it's the A.
It's a tough.
So
it's tough to be a Chicago sports fan at the moment.
Yeah, but if everyone else is an F, or
after
a D,
3 years of CHGO, are the Cubs right now the most promising team in town?
If you're looking at it as who's closest to making the playoffs,
yes,
yeah, probably the Cubs. I mean, the Blackhawks are building something, but they obviously had to tear it all the way down to get there. So they seem like they have a little bit of ways to go. The White Sox, who knows where they go from here. The Bears have broken everyone, I think, that's watched them this season.
Yeah.
And so to say that they're well-positioned, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if they're well-positioned to beat the Packers this year at all. So like
they're not.
Well,
yeah,
they weren't well
Beat
positioned
the
to
Packers.
beat the
Patriots. That's fair,
so.
yeah. So
they're losing to the worst teams in the league.
Right,
what I mean is, like, they have to be well-positioned to just beat the Packers before I could say they're well-positioned to make the playoffs.
Right.
They're not there.
Right.
And the Bulls just, I think, same, like, they're kind of in no man's land. So, yeah, I would honestly say that as far as the big five teams, obviously, like the Cubs are the most well-positioned of the five they could potentially make the playoffs next year. I know a lot of people were tired of this season. It was a disappointing year and pretty frustrating for Cubs fans, but they do still have positioned themselves organizationally as, you know, they're not bogged down by a ton of long-term deals. They don't have a ton of money on the books. They do have a really good farm system. I do think that they're the most well-positioned of the five teams to
They're
make a playoff
they're
run.
the only team in town that could hit the miracle lucky button and somehow have some fun in the postseason. They're the only team.
Yeah.
And whoever the person is that cuts Matt Eberflus's hair, whoever gave him this new do that he's got, the slick back and the tight on the sides, that should be the highest paid hairstylist in the city because it got an entire city's worth of media personalities to forget how bad he is as a head coach. Literally, all it took was a haircut and a new outfit for this guy for everyone to be like, you know what? I think this is the year we're all going to turn it around. And all it was a crappy haircut that the guy got.
Yeah.
Grew some facial hair too.
It was decent.
Yeah, it was basically just a makeover.
All right, fine. It's a new haircut. Whatever. It's a haircut, and we all forgot that this guy is an absolute clown.
And
the beard. Okay, fine.
I think his wife had a lot to do with it. From
from Hard Knocks.
Yeah, but I mean, do we blame her then? Is she to blame?
No,
we don't blame. No.
How should we be? Dude, we should have a shirt out for this, right? Instead of fire flus, flush the flus. This product is, flushable. You know what I mean?
It's very
flush the flus.
Extremely. Yeah. I don't know.
Flush the flus.
It might take like 3 flushes for the season.
It's one of those where you got to,
So you get the courtesy flush.
It's a little
couple courtesy
rough
flushes.
for the rest of the family. It's a double.
Like
flush.
I don't even know when their next touchdown's happening.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
next touchdown.
Yeah.
It's tough to start this.
I don't even know what they are anymore. Honestly, what do they look like?
They are
What
who
is
we
a
thought they
touchdown?
were.
Yeah,
We let them off the hook.
We let him off the hook because of a haircut.
Yep.
Because of a haircut.
Yeah, it's tough to wake up Monday morning after watching a game like that. Just badness all around.
You get what I'm saying? Like how depressing it has been to be a Cubs fan the last 2 years. This year was so depressing for Cubs fans because it was supposed to be finally the year that
This is the year, right?
It wasn't
Ronnie?
World Series, but
Right.
it was like this division is so outrageously winnable.
Yeah.
And that's another reason it can't be the Bears as the most optimistic team in town, right?
Yeah.
Like they've plummeted so far down because the rest of the division has gotten so good. The Cubs are still in a complete trash can of a division.
Sure.
The Brewers are the best team, and they have no shot when they get to the postseason. And they won it by 10 games.
Yeah, because they got off to the heater and just never looked back.
But
I mean, they weren't wire, but they pretty much were,
is there anything the Cubs could do this offseason that you'd say, okay, that would help my argument for they're the best team in town? Obviously, Soto's not having, Burnes didn't have. We're going to talk about Roki in a second, but is there anything? It's got to be a trade and a signing, right? There have to be at least 2 major moves this offseason for you to say, yeah, they're going to gain ground on the Brewers.
It's definitely got to be something more than being creative around the margins.
Oh,
That's not exactly the hope-inspiring phrase for me. But yeah, if it's a Roki Sasaki or if it's I don't know. I mean, any of the other non-Burnes pitchers that are available near the top or mid of that market too.
Now, why are we out on Burnes and Soto at this point?
Just too expensive. Yeah, just
dropping
expensive.
$200 million on Burnes would be kind of insane.
$17 beers don't cover that. What did Flus say coming out of that one? Not this week, last week out of halftime. We have each other.
I don't know.
It was some ridiculous quote.
We know the score and we have each other.
We know the score.
I think
we know the score and we have each other.
Yeah.
That's similar to saying finding value around the margins.
Yeah.
It gives me the same feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that quote right there. And I know what he was talking about. It was maybe something more specific to some things in the market. So maybe it's not an all-encompassing phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't exactly inspire hope that you're going to make a big splash per se,
Yeah. Did you hear anything, Ryan, from the GM meetings, quote-wise or TikTok or any of them? Did you see anything that led you to think this is going to be a better off season than last year, where we sat in Nashville and stared at the baseball winter meetings waiting for something to happen, and 4 days later we left and said, well, maybe they'll get Bellinger back.
From the Cubs perspective or from like an MLB perspective?
No, from the Cubs perspective, did you hear anything that leaves you optimistic that they're ready to make moves that they need to make?
And I mean, just in a word, no, not really.
That pauses everything I needed to know.
I'm but it's one of those things where to think that Jed would reveal a whole offseason plan or anything like that. He's not going to do that, but I think he was upfront and he's been upfront in multiple ways about talking, and not just at the GM meetings, but like talking about the bullpen, need to bolster the bullpen. He's been upfront, especially during the year, that the catching situation wasn't good enough, and that's probably something they're going to have to look at, right? And he's been upfront that just you want as much good pitching as you can get, which obviously leads you to believe like they're still looking at, like, they're not just comfortable with the starting rotation, like they will continue to look at ways to bolster that, and that could trickle down into the bullpen. No, I mean he didn't say anything that like makes me think they're gonna have this massive offseason, but he didn't also say anything that makes me think that they're just gonna sit on their hands and sit out the offseason. Like, especially when you listen again, this is not just GM meetings, but listen to him talk throughout, back at his press conference at the end of the year and throughout the season, like, especially knowing how important winning is going to be for the Cubs, for Jed next season, like, and how just kind of critical it is going into the last year of his contract. He has to do something. He has to do something. I think that's where I come from as far as like I believe they're going to do something. They're going to upgrade this roster where they can. To upgrade in certain other areas are going to be more creative, obviously, with the position player side. But we know the areas where they can go out and upgrade, and all it costs is money. And I think they will do it because Jed knows how important it is to do that and to win this season. A lot of people don't have faith in him, and I don't blame them. I don't think this front office has given fans a ton of reasons to believe that they can get it done. But I sit here and I'm like, I know that he knows how important getting the offseason right, getting next season right, how important that is for his future as Cubs president of baseball operations. And I don't think he's going to go crazy and do some stuff just to save his job. But I do think he knows like he has to do something to make sure that the Cubs are in the playoffs next season, to make sure he's around past 2025. It's pretty important that he gets that stuff done right now.
Shout out to the live YouTube chat and everybody that has joined in today. Appreciate your comments. If you're listening in podcast form tonight, later in the week or whatever, we're live at 11:30 in the off season, and hope you can join us for a live show sometime. The reason I mentioned like the Cubs and Bears thing is I was also thinking about, and it's different because rosters are different size and a different amount of players play. Like you talk about basketball, one guy can impact an entire team because there's only 5 on the floor at a time. But when I think about the Bears and Cubs, I think of all the work that Jed really has to do this offseason, right? And you start putting the list together of flaws for this team. It's a big list. Just like when you're sitting watching the Bears game on Sunday and you say, okay, they need a minimum of 3 offensive linemen, even if they have 3 top 35 picks coming up.
Right.
They're gonna need a new edge rusher. They're gonna need potentially, because of head injuries, they might need a new safety coming in, right?
They've got punter taken care of though.
They locked up punter.
Yeah.
Punter's locked up, and kicker seems okay at the moment.
Didn't he have a 13-yard punt yesterday, or did I hear that wrong? Didn't he?
I'll be honest with you, I
But
stopped
he might have
watching.
a punt. I think I heard that on the
when
radio,
it didn't matter,
yeah.
I stopped watching.
Right.
The only thing that was good about the Bears game yesterday was the
That it ended?
CHGO. No, the CHGO tailgate.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. That was the high point, actually.
That's the high point of the Bears
Good day.
day.
It's the high point of the Bears season.
You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if we can actually make a comparable list because the sports are different, but
I think the
which
Bears
team-
list is much larger.
you think the Bears list is larger? I mean,
Yes,
obviously
because-
there's more positions. It should be larger, but
Well-
the Cubs have you still need a closer,
Yeah.
right?
But a lot of teams in baseball need a closer, though.
Still need another starter at least, maybe
Yeah.
2. Still need to figure out third base potentially.
Potentially.
Still need to find a power hitter, minimum.
That's going to be the tough part.
Still don't have a single superstar when the team winning the World Series has like 4, 5, 6.
Right.
Like, the list is, baseball's a different sport, but the list is still
List
lengthy.
is pretty large.
Still lengthy.
Catcher, too.
Real quick, Mr. Cubs says in a super chat, $4.99, appreciate it. He's going to do just enough to secure a contract and then go back to what he normally, these Chicago teams managed by scumbags. Thank you, Mr. Cubs, Swanson 7. Appreciate it.
DB Swanson 7.
All right,
Thank
we'll
you.
talk about Roki in just a second, but first, I want to tell you about some of our great sponsors. Ryan, did you know that ComEd can help businesses save money by becoming more energy efficient?
I actually, until you just said that right now, did not know that.
Well, that's the crazy thing. Energy efficiency program can help find up to 35%, not 30, 35% in energy savings.
Wow, 35%?
Yeah, all they got to do is sign up for a free facility assessment at comed.com/biz.
Okay, if it's this easy and you get 35% in energy savings, why aren't more businesses doing it?
Well, it's either they blacked out watching the Bears game and they forgot, or maybe they just forgot the website.
Yeah, maybe they did. ComEd.com/biz, ComEd.com/biz, ComEd.com.
That'll do it. Thanks, Ryan.
Okay,
Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings will vary by customers' energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is funded in compliance with our state law. Hey, guys, with Empire Today, you get to shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, and quick professional installation, plus a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats. But Empire can't be beaten on quality, service, speed, and now competitors. You know what they do? They like to be copycats. They go out there, but you can't do it because Empire is not going to carry or promise the lowest prices, because anybody who does that's just putting flooring in their home that you would never want in your own house. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is help you find what you need. Don't overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in it. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. Our virtual floor designer is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Shopping floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might be talking to the guy that was working in plumbing yesterday trying to sell Kohler toilets. Or maybe it was the lady that was working over in lumber the day before that.
The lumber lady.
The lumber lady. Lovely lady, but you don't want to get flooring from her necessarily. They also service their own warranties. If an issue does arise, just call Empire. They service all their warranties themselves. You don't have to track down the manufacturer's phone number. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off. What a discount. All you got to do is use the promo code CHGO, our 4 letters, CHGO, get you $350 off. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. So one of the pieces of news that came out of those GM meetings last week in San Antonio was Jed Hoyer basically saying, we will not be in on Corbin Burnes. We will not be in on Juan Soto. The dream is crushed. You know, I had people holding up signs chanting, we want Soto. The dream's crushed. He squashed it right out of the gate. Now, this could be, don't look over here while I'm doing my best work. I don't believe that's the case. I believe he's being honest. We're not signing Burnes and Soto.
Yeah.
So that led us to last week. Okay, is Max Fried going to be the right fit? Because you got to start to fill Henrich's role. You got to fill another starter position because you had so many injuries. And then Roki Sasaki posted and is now available to major league teams. He's young. Was it Greg Huss, Ryan, that said to us he thinks his stuff is better than Yamamoto's?
I think so.
I believe it was Huss that said, you know, of the guys that come out of Japan, I think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he said, somebody told us, I think this guy's stuff is better than Yamamoto's and could play better at the major league level. Listen, if that's the case, you better get in on this. Now, I was somebody that we kept hearing the name last year, Shota Imanaga, but it was always just a throw-in line, right?
Yeah. Yamamoto was like the big.
Because people were still saying
prize.
Yamamoto, Ohtani. We were living the dream. We were out there.
Yeah.
You know, Cody was fantasizing. I took him down that way. Braggs was getting in on the dream. And then, but it was always, and there's this other guy over there, Imanaga. He'd be a nice backup. Well, that turned out to be one of the best free agent signings of the entire offseason. Like if Jed wants to say, I didn't suck last year, all of my moves weren't bad.
Oh, just point to that.
That's the number one. That's the move at the top of his list. A bargain deal where he got Imanaga, and the guy was one of the top ERA pitchers in baseball. Doesn't mean he's going to be that next year, but he was this year. He was a good signing. Could they strike gold twice in a row by going back to that same market?
It's possible. I mean, so obviously it's a different process than with like Shota or Seiya when the Cubs got those guys. Because
how so? Tell us.
It was basically because they were older when they got posted. They were not subject to like international amateur free agent status through MLB. With Sasaki, he's 23 years old. They actually haven't posted him yet. That has yet to be determined. Like when I think the deadline to post is like in December, but because it opens a 45-day window, depending when they post him, he could be considered part of the 2024 international signing class, which that ends on December 15th, that period. And a lot of teams have already used up the money in the 2024 period. Or he could be posted when the new signing period opens in January 15th, I believe, as well, which would be open to a lot more of the international bonus pool money, right? So he's not signing a $325 million contract with Yamamoto, or like Yamamoto signed, or I don't remember exactly what Shota's was, but I know Seiya's was almost $100 million when you.
He won't
count
do
the
an
posting
Ohtani
fee.
defer to the next 10 years.
Yeah, so he'll be subject to like I said, international amateur free agent rules. Can sign a minor league deal, will still be subject to like club control rules, and like basically it's like you'll sign the minor league contract and then you'll get paid through the international bonus pool by whatever team signs you. And so like he's not going to make massive contracts. I don't know exactly everyone's got different numbers as far as bonus pool allotment goes. But I would assume a lot of teams are kind of trying to save some of that money to be able to sign him. But yeah, so he's not. It's a little different process because it's not exactly the one that Shota went through last year, because of the age factor. But it is like this is one of those guys that people are saying might be one of the most talented pitchers in baseball. He's 23 years old. He's not very old. You'd have him for under team control for a while. And he's not going to cost you a ton of money to sign, like some other examples of NPB guys coming over a little bit older than when he's coming over. So obviously, like I said, the posting time hasn't been set yet, and that's according to Jeff Passan when he put it out a few days ago. But as far as could the Cubs strike gold with Roki Sasaki in the way they did with Shota, like. Jed Hoyer's been over there to watch him. I know they've had scouts over there watching him, as a lot of teams have, right? When you have this guy who could be considered one of the best pitchers in baseball at such a young age, every team's going to try to be in on him. But if it comes down to just like not necessarily money, because the limit of the amount that you can pay these guys doesn't vary too much between teams, then it's going to come down to recruiting, right? It's going to be just recruiting. Like, can you get him to agree to come to Chicago? They've done it with a couple guys recently. They have a good track record with Japanese players. Former and current Japanese players really enjoyed Chicago and the Cubs organization when you talk to them. So that all can kind of help. But they're going to be going up against some other suitors too, including the Los Angeles Dodgers,
who are allegedly the favorites, of course.
Of course.
Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, I might as well join Yamamoto and Ohtani, and the three of us can be starters. And we can begin the season against the Cubs in Japan.
Yeah.
And I can start the season right here in Japan.
Yeah, he wouldn't even need to come over for another
Well,
week.
he would be here, for some of spring training, I would think, Was it Darvish? Darvish was the one that helped recruit Seiya, right? Not Imanaga. Imanaga kind of pitched himself to the Cubs. But wasn't it Darvish when Seiya was looking at coming over here that Darvish was kind of like Chicago was great.
Yeah, I think Darvish did.
Even though he was gone. Even though he was gone
already. Yeah, I think Darvish did play a role as far as just like kind of telling him what Chicago was like. I don't remember specifically if Imanaga talked to Darvish, but a lot of these guys talk to other Japanese players that have gone through the process, so maybe he did anyway. But yeah, I think it was Seiya that Darvish like played a hand in like helping convince him.
Yeah, I mean, you actually, if you look at the pool of teams that would potentially, get him after he's posted, you kind of have to like the Cubs' chances, just because you're not going to see him go to like Pittsburgh or St. Louis or anything like that. Because why would you go to a non-international city and go to a smaller market when you'd have? I mean, historically here, even with Darvish, with whoever, with Seiya, whoever's been here, Japanese players in the past, there's built-in, marketing and promotion money. There's stuff that's built in for you that's going to happen regardless of where you go, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a number 3 market, like that has to be more attractive than, say somewhere like Colorado or whatever. I mean,
we've heard that he's seeking obviously the best fit.
Yeah.
And so right out of the gate, maybe the Cubs are a plan B. For Imanaga, it was plan A, right? Like he was all along saying, I want to go to the Cubs.
Right.
But that obviously, when you hear a guy from Japan say, I'm looking for the best fit, number one, you think Dodgers because West Coast, and he'd already have 2 teammates who he might know. Okay, and would have gone through the process of coming over to the United States and continuing their career. San Diego is another one. San Francisco is another one. The Mariners are even on that list, right? I would think the Mariners would be in that list. But if you had to say 5 teams, well, the Cubs are in the list because they've shown that. Like you said, it's more. They have a better chance than the Pirates, the White Sox. They have a better chance, I believe, than the Yankees potentially, or even the Red Sox, or someone when you're pushing it even further east. But unless you're talking about money, but this guy's talking about fit.
Yeah.
Right. But, I mean,
specifically about franchise fit.
The Mets should have a lot of, not like Rand was talking about, the price is not going to be astronomical, but the Mets could be a fit too. And depending on what the Yankees think their needs are, and I would tend to believe that their needs are more focused in starting pitching category, that could also be a thing. So, you may be looking at the Cubs as like a 6 or 7, but I could see them as a 4 or 5. I don't know.
Hey, in Chicago right now, 4 or 5, that sounds positive to me.
I think they're a top 5 team in Chicago.
4 or 5, that's how many Bears wins we could be looking at by the end of the season. Mosaic says in the live YouTube chat, Shota and Seiya better bring some Chicago deep dish and food from Chicago Kalbi. That's Otani and Ichiro's favorite U.S. Japanese restaurant.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
See? We need to send this guy on the
We're going to woo him with Lou Malnati's. That's woo him with a little deep dish.
Yeah. Woo Malnati's.
That was terrible. That was the worst joke you've ever told.
That was for
you. Well, I appreciated it, as you know.
It was a very dad joke.
It was a terrible joke.
Come on.
JP says double-edged sword, but Roki has only 2 seasons over 100 innings pitched in Japan. Not a lot of wear and tear, but probably would be on an innings pitch count the first couple years in Major League Baseball.
Love a pitch count.
Hey, listen, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
How many guys are throwing 6 innings anyway?
Yeah.
Almost nobody.
Nobody anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't Assad basically on a pitch count? Didn't I say that Kyle Hendricks should have been pitching 4 innings a game anyway?
Right.
Well, that would be the role he'd be filling.
Yeah.
If he comes over this season, you're not, no matter how good he is, I'm not saying he couldn't come over and be rookie of the year or be what Yamamoto ended up being at the end of the year, but he would come over and you wouldn't expect Roki Sasaki to be the ace of your staff.
No, I'm not expecting 8 shutout innings.
No, he would definitely slot behind Steele. He would slot behind Imanaga. He would slot behind Tyone.
Yeah.
You'd be bringing him in to be your 4 or 5 and hope that he would, dare I say, exceed projections.
Oh, yeah. And maybe he develops into an ace in time. I think that's what people say that's where he's projected to, right? Like scouts will tell you that like we said earlier, he has some of the best, pitching potential in baseball in the world. And so maybe he gets there, and I think you hope he gets there a lot sooner than later. But look at what Shota, when he came over, he wasn't hitting the ground running either. They took their time. They gave him extra rest in between starts to start the year. Like they did that with a guy who was 30 with a lot of experience in Japan. You'd have to think they did it with a guy who's a lot younger with a lot less experience pitching at that kind of level.
Is there a hidden signal in what the Cubs are about to do with Roki? We'll get into that in a second. But first, got to tell you about a partner. With Black Friday sales event going on all month long at Ray Chevrolet, you can score doorbuster deals on your next vehicle without the door-busting stress. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models with a special Black Friday prices right now. Right now, take up to $3,250 up to $13,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models, or shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you're always able to shop one of the Chicago area's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this November at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. Route 12, also known as Rand Road some places. And if you've ever heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of the Ray Price Promise. That's their guarantee to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about on the CHGO Cubs podcast right now, you can expect to see the very same prices when you shop Ray Chevy in-store or online. Shop the Black Friday sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Luke, let me tell you about our friends at CHSN. We're sponsored by Chicago Sports Network, the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're also Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core, and they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across our 77 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch Bulls, Hawks, and Sox games all season long.
The live YouTube chat, we're talking about Roki Sasaki potentially coming over to the United States and pitching for a team, maybe your Chicago Cubs. Craig Brindle has let me down in the live YouTube chat, and he says, unfortunately, I have to disagree, Luke. Sasaki would be the day one ace of the Cubs staff. It hurts me to see that Craig disagrees with me. That hurts my soul because I thought we were tight like that. But I'm not saying he doesn't. Craig, what I was saying is I'm not saying he doesn't have the potential to be your ace or could end up at the end of the season being the ace. But if you're building the team like Jed Hoyer should be building it this offseason, you can go ahead and pitch the idea of him being the ace to Sasaki,
Right.
Roki, but in the back of your head, you better not be thinking this guy is our ace going into the season because you have no idea how it's going to play at the major league level. You just don't. It's been very successful. A lot of teams are having more and more success bringing great players over from Japan, and those players instantly translating into very good or great major league players.
Sure.
But it's not guaranteed. We had no idea how Shota was really going to be last season. We didn't know.
Right.
Now, it turned out to be good. The experiment still moves forward 1 year. In year two, now the teams make adjustments with Imanaga. So, again, I'm not saying he can't be the ace of the Chicago Cubs, but I wouldn't build my offseason around the idea that I'm automatically bringing in the ace if you're able to sign him, right? Am I crazy?
No, I don't think that's. I don't think that's an unfair point at all. Because, like I said, you would probably expect them to not run him to the ground to start the year. You'd probably expect maybe a pitch count or an innings count or something to make sure he can get through the season healthy. And again, they did that with Shota, and Shota did. He was I believe the only pitcher on the staff to spend every day of the season on the active roster. Never hit the IL. Obviously they gave him extra rests when they could and when they found the ways to do that. But they did what they had to do to make sure he got through the rest of the season or the entire season healthy, and he did it. And so I don't think we don't know exactly how it would look if the Cubs were to pick up Sasaki. Maybe they do kind of just take him down that Shota, get him 6 days rest instead of 5 days rest, that kind of stuff. Maybe they do that as well. Maybe he's from day one pitching as well as Shota did last season, right? Shota, his first 9 starts or whatever, he was beating records, rookie records.
But we waited a couple months till we started talking about ace.
Sure,
right.
but he pitched pretty well the entire season. Maybe Sasaki does that, but I think I agree with you in that it's not necessarily fair to like go into next season if you sign him, expecting him to be your ace from day one and build your offseason based on that.
Right.
Not only is it added pressure to him, but you're not taking into account that he may struggle coming over for the first time. Like, it's possible because there are so many outside factors that could affect you when you do get on the mound. Like, to just assume he's going to be the ace next year is kind of minimizing the other factors that go into moving across the world and joining Major League Baseball for the first time. So,
well, yeah, and if you think back to last season with Shota, like, people were worried about his fastball coming over, and what did that prove? It proved to be his best asset.
Yeah,
that in the split.
But we didn't know that going in. You didn't know that going into that first start. You were just thinking, like, let's hope this works, because it wasn't to a velocity level that guys couldn't catch up to in the major leagues. He wasn't used to facing that type of hitter. There's not very many Juan Sotos over there. So, yeah, I mean, I think you could be looking at a future ace, quote unquote, if they wind up with Roki Sasaki. But I think if you're Craig Counsell, you may be going into that first start saying, okay, if he throws 4 scoreless, what do I do now?
I thought you were going to say if he throws 4 scoreless, he's the ace.
Right. No, but like,
he's the ace.
Do you have to
wait a
start
minute? The
watching,
wind was blowing on.
Do you say, yeah, exactly. Do you have to start watching that pitch count like right away? Like what's going to be the plan? I mean, I'm sure they would have something in place during spring training, figure it out going in. But when you get to that bridge, like, what do you do?
Right. Craig has clarified now. Craig Brindle says we are still tight, Luke. You are correct. 99.9% of the time.
That was just a 0.1.
Credit to you.
Well,
that was just the 0.1.
Sounds like you broke your streak.
I broke my streak.
Like
pretty good batting.
Mosaic has pointed out he believes the rotation here. He's looking for a rotation of Fried, Steele, Sasaki, Imanaga, Tyone. That would be incredible.
Pretty good rotation.
And he did point out what I teased right before our last break, which was that the Cubs are now going to work with a Japanese firm called Next Base, collaborating with the Cubs at spring training. The report is Next Base analysts will use sensors to measure pitchers' fingertips, motion, spin, and energy efficiency. Is this something that
it sounds like ComEd?
It does sound like the energy efficiency program. It's their version of it. Next Base, is this something? What we need to know is this something that Roki values? Is this something he's already going to say, I want this, right? Or is it something that Shota had? Did the Cubs find it on their own, or is this something that they're using to recruit potentially Roki by saying, oh, yeah, you want Next Base at spring training? Done.
Sure.
We'll do it even if you don't sign here.
I mean, let's hope that's the case. Let's hope it's not a catching up to other teams thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
every other team already has this.
I mean, I think we're past the whole Theo era where the Cubs were 20 years behind everyone else when he took over. So I don't think we're in that situation anymore where they're trying to play catch up with, say, the Padres or the Dodgers anymore. But there might be other teams that have, initiated this protocol already, and they're just kind of like following suit. But let's just hope it's more of a, pioneering effort from Jed Hoyer and company.
Mosaic said, it just mentioned in the chat. I know that's what I just said.
Yeah, we did say that.
You caught up on my tease. I teased it before the break, and then you spoiled my teaser in the live YouTube chat. You beat me to it.
It could be linked, and it's also like, as if you're trying to be one of the best teams in baseball, you should always be looking for a kind of a way to get an edge, whether it's in recruiting players, whether it's just in player health and data development and all that kind of stuff. You're always looking for edges. So I think this is a way for the Cubs to like find an edge in baseball specifically, but also like, it could play off the other factor of like, if it's something that Sasaki does value or I don't know exactly how this ties back into him, but if it's a way to get an edge and potentially signing Sasaki, like, it's not obviously a bad thing to try.
No, is it tipping their hand that they're going to try and get him? Who was the player that the White Sox kept signing all his relatives?
Was it Machado?
Machado.
Kenny
What-
Williams.
It was the Machado when they were
was
trying to get
Machado.
Machado, right? They,
Yeah.
Signed his
they,
cousin.
they
I
were
don't remember
signing
who it
his
was.
His
cousin, and that was
brother-in-law. Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
like his cousin, his brother-in-law. That didn't work out, obviously.
No, it did not.
But the one that did, we sat here with Michael Cerami, and I said, wait a minute, the Cubs, when they were trying to get Bellinger
Yeah.
and sign him to that first one-year deal, I said, wait a minute, the Cubs just went out and signed the hitting coach who was responsible for Bellinger's MVP season.
Yep.
Maybe not fully, but he was
It
connected
was at
to
least
it.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like the last time Bellinger was a great player, this guy was his hitting coach, and the Cubs just signed him
Mhm.
and brought him over. That's breadcrumbs that lead to something, right? I don't know if next base is breadcrumbs leading to them trying to get Roki, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and then
That are both are around a week apart, the news.
yeah, and then you factor in the past success, with Seiya, and yeah, I mean, there's hope, and I think there's a lot of hope there with
We hope this isn't somebody having a dog named Wrigley, because that didn't lead to anything.
No, definitely not.
Well, his dog's named Wrigley. He's coming for sure. He's
Mosaic-
Chris Bryant's best buddy. He's
That
going
was
to
all
be here.
just a large troll.
Yeah.
Mosaic wants to sign Roki's dog.
That's what I'm
Maybe that would
saying.
help, yeah.
Get in on the dogs, whatever you take.
Did we ever figure out what Otani's dog was named? Remember that was like a big thing
it's
last year?
wait.
You
no,
know,
they-
Was
they
it
released
that,
Addison?
didn't
Was it
no.
Addison?
No, it's
Waveland.
not.
I don't remember what it was.
Justin Fields.
Umami Burger? You ever eat at that place? Good.
Yeah, no.
Whoops. But yeah, so I was just kind of looking at MLB.com and just the basics of like the Roki Sasaki stuff.
Decoy.
Decoy. Okay, that was. I wonder why that was hidden for so long.
It was a decoy.
So obviously we mentioned it, but like
People
the
do
45-day negotiating window starts as soon as he posts.
Mhm.
If he were to post anytime before like December 2nd, I think he wouldn't be able to sign in the 20 like his 45-day window will end before the next international signing would begin, so we'd have like
It would
between
go to this
December
year's.
2nd and December 15th to sign. If you were to sign anytime in that period, because the deadline I think is December 15th.
Mhm.
So anytime between like the 2nd and 15th of the December, he could obviously sign before the period closed this year, but he could also sign whenever the period opens in January 15th. And there's like this article, I think it's Jonathan Mayo that wrote it at MLB.com. Like he mentions, obviously the Dodgers have to be a favorite.
Yeah.
But he lays out just kind of what money wise looks like, and it feels like since he's already posted, or he's going to be posted this year, he's not waiting to be posted once he turns 25 and can meet the requirements to not be an amateur internationally. It doesn't seem like money is this major operating factor for him, or this major motivating factor for him, because otherwise he could have waited a couple of years and got a lot more.
Right.
But just to kind of lay out what it looks like right now, the top 5 teams based on remaining 2024 international bonus pool money. Do you know who's at the top?
Cubs.
The Dodgers.
Ah.
About 2.5 million.
I'm
Dodgers, Orioles, Yankees, Giants, Red Sox are your top 5, with the Cubs somewhere in the middle at 237,000. So less than 10% of what the Dodgers have remaining in just this year's. Obviously, like in theory, once the next signing period opens, everyone's bonus pool
Right.
things
Reset.
reset.
I will
Yeah.
vomit.
Unless you've traded some of that.
Yeah, or like
some teams have.
obviously you have like already committed money to players,
Mhm.
even if it's like not or just like there's usually agreements already in place that like the number you'd see as far as the total bonus pool is probably not that much remaining.
Mhm.
But if just to lay out that what each teams will look like for 2025 at $7.5 million, you have Cincinnati, Detroit, Miami, Milwaukee, Minnesota, Oakland, Seattle, and Tampa Bay at 6.9. Arizona, Baltimore, Cleveland, Colorado, KC, Pittsburgh, and then you get to the tier the Cubs are in. Any of those teams in the 2 tiers above that I named, I don't like Seattle would stick out just because they're on the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and that may matter. And I just don't see a ton of teams in the 2 tiers as far as money goes above the Cubs that you feel like are really, really strong suitors and you should be worried about just because they could pay him more. The Cubs are in the same tier as Atlanta, Boston, White Sox, Angels, Mets, Yankees, Phillies, San Diego, Texas, Toronto.
So
and
every
Washington.
team in baseball.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but then all the way at the bottom in the 5th tier with about 5.1 million is the Dodgers and the Giants.
Listen,
Like
do
I
you
said-
remember the podcast we did last year when Ohtani did the deferred 10 years? And I was like, I don't know why we're even playing anymore. Like, they're going to add this.
Right.
They're adding the best player on the planet. They already had probably the best team, and it's a funky sport, yada, yada, yada. And we've had a similar thought process. We've already said, like, if they get if they get Soto and Roki and Corbin Burnes, why are we even playing the games? I know it's a
Right.
game of chance, but like, why the gap between the Cubs and the Dodgers, if they sign two of those 3 guys,
Yeah.
would be so great.
Yeah.
That I'd have a better chance of jumping over the Grand Canyon than the Cubs would of winning the World Series. That's where we'd be at.
I mean,
And I can't jump.
even without that one more guy on the Dodgers,
The
I think
gap
you're
is-
already there.
Correct.
Obviously.
But if you're not closing the gap somehow,
Right.
like what are we even doing?
Well, I mean, I think if it reaches that point where the Dodgers are the only have and everyone else is a have not, because if it reaches that point, that means the Yankees are a have not, right? I mean,
Sort
What-
of.
what type
of
Yeah,
world
yeah,
is
you
that?
take Soto
Right?
off the team, sure.
right, but like, I think Cashman he's probably a little more hamstrung budget wise than the Dodgers are,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is no other team in their stratosphere as far as liquid assets and ability to sign pretty much every player in baseball if they so choose. And it makes total sense that they have the most international money left for 2024 because all they did is go out and bring in every superstar player, and they might not have allocated as much toward international free agent bonus pool money. It's just it's nuts right now.
So potentially the Dodgers could sign all these guys, and you can't even go get Vlad Guerrero because now the Jays don't even want to trade Vlad Guerrero.
Right.
And Alonso probably would stay with the Mets, and then you're going to march out the same team minus pitching depth.
Yeah. I mean, if
What a Monday this is turning
No,
out
but
to
like-
be. I started optimistic. The sun was out. It's Veterans Day. People had the day off.
it's kind of
Except for
crazy.
us.
Like you look
Except
at
for
the MLB trade rumors, guesses or their best estimates of where guys will land, and like half the players, some guy picks the Dodgers to land there, and it's just it's some of it's just best guess and well educated guesses, but they're too much of a player for every player in the free agent pool. It's just nuts.
Speaking of the Dodgers, did you guys see The Athletic did a poll with all of the, 52, 57 of their writers, whatever they have. And they said, who's going to get each of these free agents, right? And then it was a percentage. And the only free agent that the Cubs were even listed in a percentage chance for was Fried.
Wow.
And they were second. Behind?
The Dodgers.
They were second at like 21% of their 20 or 21% of the writers at the Athletic thought the Cubs were getting Fried. Like 20%.
The other 80%.
Who was the team ahead of them? You're right, Nate. Of course, the
The
other
Dodgers?
team ahead of them was the Dodgers.
Really?
Yeah.
So, like, can you imagine if it's all of those? They just like stockpile everybody.
I mean, I
It'd
could
be
see
hard
a
to
world
believe.
where
Oh boy, I
it's
hope
Fried, Sasaki, and
maybe Ben
whatever
Brown
pop-
gets healthy next year. Right?
Remember when we said at the
Hopes and
beginning of the
dreams,
show?
wishes.
Remember when we asked at the beginning of the show if the Cubs are the most well-positioned team in Chicago?
I do.
It's still true.
It's
It's
still
still
true,
true,
and it's
but-
disgustingly true.
But like, just compare that to how just overall well-positioned the Dodgers are to just
Yeah,
win the next
yeah.
20 World Series. I don't know, but like, yeah, it would be. I mean, like we're talking about Sasaki. Like, had he been coming over and was looking at like a $300 million contract, maybe the Dodgers aren't specifically the most likely team to get him just based on what they already have committed.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he's not going to be signing he's going to be signing for a minor league contract and getting bonus pool money. You're kind of like, wow, like they absolutely have a real shot at getting him and probably are the favorites.
Right. Yeah. Dodgers rotation: Ohtani, Fried, Corbin Burnes, Bueller comes back, adds Sasaki in there, and Yamamoto. Sure.
Yeah.
We got a shot.
Yeah.
We got a shot.
So you're saying there's
Tyone's
a
pitching every
chance.
4 days.
Oh God.
No, that's not against Tyone. That was a low blow,
Yeah,
and it was unnecessary. Totally unnecessary.
You should say you're sorry.
I apologize, J-Mo. All right. So did you see, I teased at the top of the show, did you see what the Cubs' top prospect, 1 or 2, whatever you want to put Matt Shaw? They've played 2 games. What is it? The Premier 12
Yeah, I mean,
is what they call it, right? He's playing for Team USA. He's got 7 hits, 7 RBI in 2 games, and he walked it off with a home run last night.
yeah, he had a
Okay.
And I want
Okay.
to look, and you guys can talk while I find it. But I know,
Well, I forgot that this.
John Morosi said something about it.
Oh,
Our friend,
friend
our
of the
good-
show,
our good
John
friend,
Morosi.
our good, very good friend, John Morosi. Something along the lines of like, it could be a precursor to like being. And I'll find the quote, but
Well, I mean, you have to like the chances. I mean, obviously Nico's not going to be, ready for opening day. Maybe this is a preview of, hey,
Matt Shaw will be.
Well, not necessarily, but like he was mentioned by name by Jed Hoyer,
Right.
as a possible option to fill in at
Yeah.
second base. So that's not a thing.
I like to see your top prospect doing things.
Yeah.
Even when the game's not going on at the major league level
Yeah.
or minor league level, I like to
Right.
see him being talked about as the guy that's tearing it up.
Yeah.
That
You want to make the
doesn't hurt.
headlines, basically. Yeah.
That doesn't hurt. It either bodes well for the future in one way or the other. Either A, he develops into the player you need him to be because you need a superstar and he becomes a superstar, or B, he's increasing his trade value right now.
Right.
yeah. Morosi's tweet was, Cubs fans will be thrilled to see these Matt Shaw highlights from last night. Success at Premier 12 bodes well for near-term MLB impact. Bohm, Cronenworth, Rooker, and Varsho were in similar positions at the 2019 event to where Shaw is now. Some
See?
solid players on that list. So
Yeah. You
we'll
want to
see.
be, I mean, if you're a top prospect in an organization, you want to be mentioned along with a guy like Dalton Varsho. That's a great name to be mentioned with. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so like, and I think we know, like, we've talked about it. He's pretty close to MLB ready, if not already MLB ready now. And with Nico's timeline just being unclear, there may be a more shorter term opening at second base to start the year. I think the way from what came out, like from Nico, from the GM meetings, it doesn't seem like it's something that where you're looking for someone to fill in for 3 months, maybe a lot,
Right.
maybe shorter than that. And so maybe that is a time where, if you feel good about Matt Shaw, you can give him like a little more extended cup of coffee, see what he can do, and then when Nico's ready to return to game action, can Shaw, Matt, if he's not having total success, well, he can go back down to AAA, take the experience he got in the couple weeks or so at the big league level, and just use them to get ready for the next opportunity when it comes, which I think we all expect, even if he doesn't open the year with the Cubs, we expect him to see the major leagues at some point this year, assuming health. Knock on wood for that, I guess.
I could have had an extended cup of coffee this morning. Instead, I only had like half of one. Had to get here early.
Luke's got the extended cup of coffee over there.
This is the medicine ball, which is not on the menu,
Love the
but you got to
medicine
know
ball.
about the medicine ball. By the way,
Secret
speaking
menu.
of food, because I know we're running out of time here, but I did want to mention that I did do a taste test last night. And I know everybody here likes to know my takes on a little something, right? So I tried something last night. Last week was a rough week at the house, right? I had a rough week for many reasons.
'Cause you were
So
down in
I
Mexico.
said to myself, I'm going to sit here and watch TV tonight after the kids go to bed, and I'm going to treat myself.
Treat
I'm
yourself.
as soon as the kids go to bed,
Treat yourself.
I'm driving to Portillo's,
Mm.
and I'm going to get the chocolate cake, of course.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Chocolate cake shake or just a piece?
Just a piece of cake.
Okay.
Went to Andy's custard, got a little custard to go with it. I said, I'm doing this up.
You did a double dessert.
Yeah, because
run.
I have my annual physical coming up this week, and I want to be honest with the doctor. This is where I'm really at. Some people go on a diet before they have their physical.
Opposite.
I like to load up with the custard and say, Doc, this is what my veins really look like. 362 days a year, this is it. The other ones, I don't eat custard. So I went to the drive-thru, and they have a new cake, a seasonal cake.
Oh, you didn't get that one, did you?
I tried the
spiced whatever caramel
salted
cake?
caramel spice cake.
Not good.
I'll give it a 7.
7.
It was good. You know what it tasted like?
7 out of 30, maybe.
Out of 10. No. It's got to be a small diet. It tasted like a snickerdoodle cookie.
It did not
delightful.
taste like a snickerdoodle.
We don't give
cookie.
numbers. We give grades.
Here's
what
the
letter
deal.
grade do you get?
This is just my advice for you if you're going to Portillo's today. If you're looking at the spiced cake, salted caramel, but the always
reliable 8.
Always
Reliable
reliable
9.
chocolate cake is on there. Stick with the chocolate cake.
Yeah, definitely stick with the chocolate cake.
No, I did the smart thing. I got both.
Okay.
I
And
did both
custard?
because, again, I want to be honest with my doctors.
Maybe this is why you
Honesty is the
have to
key.
go to Mexico every few weeks.
Yeah.
Listen, nothing kills a little strep throat like a good piece of chocolate cake. And I'll leave it at that. Feel much better.
I guess if I ever do get strep throat, I'll have to try.
That's right.
Brian G saying he's been a CHGO follower from the beginning of its inception because of Luke, and this is why he's a Chicago legit
he knows.
food guy.
He knows.
Yeah, except
He
you
knows.
don't eat anything of like any remotely spicy thing, and
Ooh.
like you don't put anything on like a hot dog or anything.
You get a lot of salads.
This is why Brian knows that I'm giving him the goods because I'm a picky eater. I grew up a picky eater.
Yeah.
So if I like it, if I give it a 10 out of 10, you're
it to the
getting a
bank.
10.
Yeah,
You're
take it
going
to
to
the
think
bank.
it's a 12. No, I'm not going to go get you some crazy. You know foods that I don't even know what they mean.
It's called jardinera. You put it on.
I don't
beef.
put jardinera
beef.
on anything.
Yeah, that's because you're not a legit food guy, as Brian.
Ooh.
You're
G
trying to
said.
hide your food. I'm
No,
not.
Not at all. I'm
My
adding-
chocolate cake from Portillo's
adding
means
layers to
nothing.
it.
It's an 8.
Jardinera can,
That was a 7.
No, the
it
spice
can
cake's a
Oh,
7.
okay.
improve upon
Spice cake
certain
was a
things.
4.
Yes,
Chardonnay.
like a sandwich.
Or a
Jardinera
pizza.
sandwich. I don't know about pizza.
Sausage and jarred, it's delicious.
I don't know about that
Law
one.
has
Each
the
their own.
angriest food takes. I just give you the
It's not true
correct
at all.
food. Did you read?
What do you put on a hot dog? Don't you only put like ketchup or something, or you like don't eat anything on a
I'll eat a plain
cheeseburger?
hot dog.
Yeah, I know. That's ridiculous.
Because the
Only if
encased meat,
necessary.
the encased
To be
meat,
fair, if I'm like in a hurry,
the
I'll do
encased
a-
meat
I'll
is
do a
just fine
plain
by
hot
itself
dog.
if it's a correct hot dog. If it's grilled correctly, the encased meat does the job by itself.
It's
Encased
true.
meat.
Mustard always is a good.
Mustard's pretty good. Just quick.
No
Accoutrement.
mustard. I don't put
Yeah.
mustard on anything.
yeah, sport peppers.
Jay
relish.
grades me an A+ for food. Thank you. I may not have baseball takes that make any sense, including trying to trade Moncada for Ian Happ one point.
Ian Hamm and Patrick Wisdom.
And I was throwing in Patrick Wisdom, too. That was probably my worst baseball take ever.
Ryan Lambert
Although-
hates Portillo's.
White Sox would have ruined Ian Happ anyway, so it
Ugh.
wouldn't have mattered.
Ryan doesn't like Portillo's. We're never going to say that because they
Food's
could be a
bland.
sponsor
Food's bland.
Ugh.
What are we talking
someday.
about?
You never
the
know.
wrong Portillo's, I guess.
All right, that's going to do it for the TV side of things. You can continue the conversation for a little bit if you want at allchgo.com. The Bears Show is our next live show.
Yeah, unfortunately, doesn't seem like there's an emergency podcast happening.
More of the same.
Mm.
We'll keep holding. Cross your
Yeah.
fingers.
They were hoping for what I like to call Magic Wand Monday. Doesn't appear it's happening up at Hallis Hall. But we do want to tell you about our Die Hard program because Die Hard is where all the magic happens. It's where
All
you
of it.
get your discounts to our takeovers. It's where you get the discounts to all of our dope merch,
We just had the Blackhawks takeover last night. I was
How
at
did that
TBC
go?
for It was great.
right?
They won an OT.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can't ask for anything better than that.
I think the Hawks takeover games are like 3-1-1, something like that.
Takeovers?
I don't know the exact number, but it's like 3 wins and a regulation loss.
Correct
that?
me if
Who
I'm
would've
wrong.
thought?
The Blackhawks takeover, it was full of diehards
Yeah.
because it was nothing. They all want their discount. They got their discount, and it was
100% off.
sold out before it was like
Yes.
in a blink of an eye, they sold out all the tickets to the takeover, partially the diehard card. And of course, to me, that's what really gets you success is you show up with that diehard card somewhere. And it's the only thing that might save Matt Eberflus right now
It's
is
automatic
for him to
respect.
play the diehard card. That's the only thing. The only way he's getting a free meal in Chicago
Boy,
today is to slap down the diehard card and say, listen,
Maybe another haircut.
at least I have it.
Yeah.
He could get another haircut.
Hmm.
That guy deserves some kind of serious bonus. Or lady, whoever's cutting his hair, terrific job. We're back tomorrow at 11:30 live right here. Hit the like button on the way out. Thumbs up if you would, please, and then join the Bears, guys. Until then, thanks for watching the CHGO Cubs podcast. See you at 11:30 and fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.